Well, good afternoon, my friends and family. Welcome back. Welcome to the West Base Medium. Today, I'm going to talk about Afrophobic in India and the wider Indian community. This is partially personal and a political and the reality. Briefly, I want to state up front that I mix African and Indian, or Indian and African. I was born in Jamaica, and this is why this conversation matters to me. It's personal. I've seen it. I've seen it in the Caribbean and in the United States. And I've seen it in Jamaica. I've seen it in Trinidad. I have personally experienced it. So you could say that I lived it. Let me start out saying I have seen where I live now in the United States. And I've seen where I would be walking past an Indian person and they would look at me, a look, and I know the look. And they would clinch onto their pocketbook and you could see that look that they say, oh shit, a black man, because I'm of a dark complexion, even though I show some Indian heritage. But they don't differentiate. In Jamaica, it's a little different. You have a lot of mixed people in Jamaica who are Indian and Africans. In Jamaica, where you'll see it more, you'll see it in the lighter complexion Indians, how they look at you and their reaction to you. Not so mostly in the dark Indians in Jamaica, but in the lighter complexion Indians in Jamaica. To me, they think they're white. They think they're Caucasian. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'll call it out. I'll tell them to their face. This is how it is. And I have been thinking about this for a long time. And I decided to speak about it today. Let's look at the big picture and reference some cases. There was a guy in India, Masana Kentata Oliver. This was 2016. He was murdered in Delhi. Greater Nova mob attacked in 2017. Ongoing harassment of African student in India. The Sadie community, which has been living in India for centuries, have been long marginalized by the Indian government and the Indian people. There is an Indian academic, and an activist who have voiced his concern about racism in India and sometimes being worse than in the Western world, in the Americas or in Europe. The racism in India sometimes is worse than in the Western world. Let's talk about colorism. And most of you I know who are African descendants can relate to this. And some of you who are not African descendants, but you have seen it, can relate to it. If you're a light complexion, an Indian person will be more receptive to you. If you have a darker complexion, they have this stereotype look in their face. They look down on you. And it's all over the world. But I have to speak about it today because it's in my blood. My mother, her parents, her grandparents is from India. On my father's side, his grandparents is from Africa. That were brought to Jamaica by slaves. On the Indian side, they were brought to Jamaica as indentured servants, maybe one step up from slavery. But the colorism is one of the most blatant way of discrimination. This is the mindset of a lot of Indians. If you have a dark complexion, they automatically think you're a criminal or you're no good. But you have a lighter complexion, they'll give you a break. And sometimes it's the flip side. Those lighter complexions are the criminals. But yet they get a break because they have a lighter complexion. And this has been continued perpetrating by the media. The media talks and hype up the Indian and the African communities. And they try to put a wedge between the Indian and African communities. Let's now talk about how we can maybe get some positive out of this. Indians have to stop listening to the media and watching the media and the stereotypes that's on in the media. You need to start be able to communicate with people. We are one. What would it take for the Indians to realize what they're doing? Or do they realize what they're doing? And why is it that it's rooted in the Indians to be anti-black? That anti-blackness in Indian culture. Black people have been living in India for centuries. And why are they treated the way they're treated? The Indians came to the New World, the Americas, in the Caribbean. They came as indentured servants. The slave was there before. But yet, they think they're better than the slaves. Indians were in Africa. They were sent to Africa for the same thing. The white people, the British, took them there as indentured servants too. But yet, even in Africa, they go to Africa, in the African countries, they treat Africans with disdain. Why? I would like to find out why the Indians think this way or act this way. Anti-black stereotype is a major issue throughout the world. They are often portrayed as drug dealers, criminal, and being dangerous. But, I just want to say this. Marijuana, which in Jamaica we call it ganja, was brought to Jamaica by the Indians from India when they came to Jamaica as indentured servants. But yet, there's a stereotype for the black people when they smoke marijuana. The Indians do smoke marijuana too. But they stereotype the blacks as criminals or what they would say worthless. But yet their own people are doing it when they don't stereotype. They don't call them that. And part of this racism, it's a hangover from the colonial masters. Remember, the British was in India for years. And the lighter complexion Indians got better service or were looked on different from the dark complexion Indians. So my belief, I'm not sure if I'm correct, it came from when the British was there and how they would treat the difference in Indians, from the dark Indian to the light Indian, how they would treat them. And the light Indian developed this stereotype that the darker skinned Indian was less of a human being than them. That is my take. I'm not saying it's correct. So we have to, as a people, start calling these things out and start talking instead of just making your assumption when you look at a person. I remember years ago, a little background on myself. I operate an insurance agency. And I remember years ago, Indian guy came in and I asked him if I could help him. He said no, he wanted to speak to the manager. So I said, "Can I help you?" He said no, he wanted to speak to the manager. And I asked him a third time. I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "Can't you listen?" I said, "I want to speak to the manager." I said to him, "Well, you're speaking to the manager. How can I help you?" And the look in his face, his expression was saying, "How can someone like you own or the manager of an insurance agency. And I looked at him and I said, I understand where you're coming from, but I own this agency. And this is not a franchise. I own it. I'm an independent owner. If you notice, there's no insurance company name up there. It has my company name. And I was able to help him. I think he learned something, or at least he pretended to understand. But that's was just one incident. So if you have similar experience, leave a comment. And if you want to hear more positive stories, we try to cover Pan Africanism and Pan Africa, but we still cover other things. Drop me a line. Let me know if you have experience with the experience I have with Indians. My name again is Neville Philpotts, and this is the West Best Media. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can build this channel. We try to build this channel and shoot and try to inform and to move the community at large closer together. For now, thanks for watching and have a great day.